Oh my gosh, Reynard. Dune 2 is coming out soon on DVD. We have to get it.
No, Daniel, we have Dune Part 2 at home.
Wheat is a cereal grain that serves as an important source of carbohydrates, protein, micronutrients, and dietary fiber. The staple food is an annual crop, meaning it must be sown and harvested each season. After it is grown, the crop must be reaped, the grain threshed to remove the seed from the chaff, and the edible seed milled into flour. The resulting food product can be a vital part of the diet for many people in the form of baked breads, pastas, porridges, and other substances.
So here we are.
This is what society's come to, I guess.
Rebel Moon Part 2. Now, we didn't talk about Rebel Moon Part 1. We did see Rebel Moon Part 1. We didn't talk about it because we didn't think there was really that much to talk about with it.
Too much movie for too little things happening.
It was supposed to be, because when I said, like, hey, let's talk about this, I was like, we could talk about both movies. We can talk about Zack Snyder. We can talk about the duology. And now it's not a duology.
Oh, God, what?
Oh, you didn't hear about this. This is going to be 6 movies now.
What?
You didn't hear about it? Yeah, Zack Snyder came out and said, so actually, I have plans for 6 movies in this franchise. So
no.
You still haven't seen the whole picture yet.
Okay, well.
I think this is going to lead into kind of like our first little bit here of like, let's just talk about our general thoughts of Zack Snyder. Do you want to go first or shall I?
Are you going to... Oh, boy. Well... Okay. I guess speaking strictly vis-a-vis this film, you know, I saw an article a few days ago, interview with the director Ruben Östlund, who did Triangle of Sadness and Force Majeure and The Square and whatnot. And the kind of big pull quote from that was like he was like pushing for people should have like licenses to operate a camera as they would a gun in the United States. And initially I was just kind of like happy that the latest like utter hot take was about that rather than like, you know, Hitler or something. But honestly, after having seen this film, maybe he's got a point. But looking back, I have a very troubled history with Zack Snyder, and I guess the most succinct way I can put it is, you know how like when you're in like elementary school, middle school, maybe even early high school, and like when you go to the movies, no matter what you see, it's like it's good because it's a movie that you saw in the theater, and like you had your popcorn and your icy and whatnot, and everything's great. I remember watching Man of Steel and having this moment afterwards with my family where I'll like went at PF Chang's or something, some nightmare. And I was like, maybe this isn't a good movie. And my relationship to Snyder only went downhill from there. He's got some great action stuff, but I don't know.
So this is a reversal because you're going to be the nicer one here in this conversation. I think Zack Snyder is horribly overhyped. I think that he had the great privilege of being handed very easy material to adapt early in his career. And he didn't even really do a good job adapting that material. But because it was visually strong enough, and in the case of Watchmen, narratively strong enough, a weak adaptation of Watchmen is still a good movie. And since then, he has failed upwards in every title he has released since then. He has no respect for the art of storytelling. He has no comprehension of how to actually put ideas together, and he doesn't seem to have the interest to try to learn.
Oh, I thought I was going to pull punches, but okay. Yeah, no, I think that what's kind of exhausted me lately is his tendency to, like, we all have
to lie.
Well, yes.
To lie.
Okay, there we go. And, you know, he's always got a better alternative that he's not released initially, but it's always going to be better. The grass is greener.
I think that's the thing that's really frustrating me at this point, because it's like, I don't care if he wants to release his, like, edgy, grim, dark movies. Like, I don't care. But then when he starts saying, actually, there's a better version of this, and I'm going to need my fans to go harass some more journalists so that I can be handed millions more dollars to redo my movie. And he can do this because he's an established name. And then that money can't be used for other people to then make good movies.
Yeah, like, I can't, like, he stepped away from Justice League due to, like, family tragedy and all of that. Like, I don't think that the quote-unquote Snyder Cut was, like, you know, something that necessarily needed to happen, but, like, it set a bad precedent where, like, when he released Rebel Moon Part 1 and immediately was like, there's a longer, better, bloodier cut, it's like, okay, well, you had Netflix. Like, they don't give a fuck. Like, just release your better version rather than playing this shitty, like, art of the deal, fucking inept, you know, wager where we have to constantly wait for the next best thing to happen.
Right. Because, again, like, what happened with Justice League, like, that was a different situation. Like, he stepped away, and when he stepped away, the studio took the opportunity to tamper with it. Like,
Get
that was
by J.J. Abrams.
Oh no,
Even better, fucking one of the two. They're all the same. I don't remember which one. They're both odious.
But yeah, it's like, so what happened with Justice League? Like, there was some actual bullshit that happened there. That's different. But when you go to Netflix and you know how Netflix is, they're like, here is a blank check. Do literally whatever you want. And he still can't get it right. He still has to go like, oh, there's a different version of this. That's the real one. You have to watch 6 hour long. That's how long this thing's gonna be. 6 hours long. No, I'm not watching that.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, and when it comes down... Again, I don't care if he wants to make his... I just wish he would be honest about it and be honest with himself, because I think that... I was going to save this point for later, but I'll kind of bring up now and kind of bring up, like, the different examples later on. I feel like he's not... Despite, like, I just ranted like a madman about him a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I don't think he's talentless. I think he does have a knack for creating dramatic, schlocky action. His problem is that he doesn't seem to be happy with that. He wants to pretend he's making, for lack of a better word, serious Oscar-worthy art. And I wish he would just be like, no, wait, I'm good at doing this ridiculous over-the-top stuff. I'm going to try to lean into that and see if I can make that work. But he takes himself so seriously.
I mean, like, I think he's just enabled endlessly by others and has somehow inexplicably managed to garner, like, these purse strings. I think you could, like, compare, like, a schlock artist. Like, I think, like, Roger Corman is a good example of somebody who has, like, kind of, let's just say, like, populist tendencies, or like, you know, like he's interested in kind of like creating a little spectacle or whatnot, but he's also got a talent for curating other creators and whatnot, whereas like Snyder is a fully self-serving instrument. Like, it's just this like endless masturbation with him, where he needs to like create like hype around his image and then make himself, a la his most favorite things, which we'll get into, a Christ, like a sacrificial idol, and then just kind of create this sort of like just circle jerk of things. And I'm like, well, Reddit's way ahead of you in that regard.
I think we could go on about this for a long time, but let's get to the actual movie.
Oh God.
There we go. So to get like a little bit of history, so this Rebel Moon. Apparently Zack Snyder had pitched this originally as a Star Wars movie to Lucasfilm shortly after Disney purchased the studio, and Lucasfilm turned him down. Now this is already our first red flag, because any project that Lucasfilm deems too low quality is not to be trifled with.
I mean, that didn't stop him from just very thinly ripping it off anyhow. These are not lightsabers. They're legally distinct.
Very legally distinct. And then it came over to Netflix. And so when we saw part one, I think we both went in kind of with low expectations. And the thing is that I'll go into a movie with expectations, but I'll let myself be surprised. Like, the one movie of his I actually like is, ironically, his Snyder cut of the Justice League. I actually find myself enjoying that quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started watching that with one of my other friends, like, we watched it, we were getting ready to make fun of it. Like, we went in, like, ready to go guns blazing, and about a half hour, and we're like, we're kind of liking this so far. It's been an hour. We're liking this so far. Holy shit, it's been 2 hours. Are we having a good time, actually?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so we went, so I say this to stave off the, oh, you went in biased accusations. But, you know, so we went in, part one was so, and honestly, like, again, we're going to try to focus on part two here, but a lot of the same issues just exist across both movies here.
I suppose, in a way, they're kind of like the opposite sides of the coin, where, like, part one, we're looking at, like, a total of, what, like, 4.25 hours of storytelling, if you can call it such. Part one, what is it, A Child of Fire, which I don't know if they ever explained that. That's almost too much story into one, like, feature length, and then part two is suffering from, like, a deficit of things happening. Like, if he could have redistributed everything among the two, maybe it would have been, you know, a C+ or something. I don't know.
I think it will need a little bit more than a redistribution, because what do you take away from part one? Because part one, it's like, oh, the evil empire lands on the little village planet, like, oh, we need your grain or we're going to kill you all. So they go, they find 6 people, they get captured, they fight the empire, they kill the guy for the first time, and then they go to, this all takes like 2.5 hours.
Right. But all the most interesting parts are cut out of that.
Yeah, it's like, you need the extended cut to see the actual story.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Remember that. And then in part two now, it's just so they get there, they get the village ready to fight, and then they fight. And that's the story of Rebel Moon.
It's elegant in its simplicity.
Well, it ain't complex in its subtlety. I'll tell you that much.
There we go.
Because I feel like, you know, because that's like the basic plot, but the story's supposed to like, oh, the characters and there's journeys along the way, except no character here gets to be a person. There's literally because they get to the village, and I think it's like the first night that they're there, and maybe it's a couple nights in, but somebody's like, oh, I made these banners for you. This represents, your inner strength. This represents the joy that you bring us. This represents your courage. And it's like, we have not seen these people display any of these things. It's like, it's very desperately trying to catch up on trying to characterize everybody in this movie, because none of them are anything.
I mean, fortunately for the film, then, like, next scene they have a chance to kind of sit morosely around a fire and kind of share their backstories, which was something that we were deprived of in the earlier installment. And we are also kind of deprived of, because it's basically the same thing, just doled out time and time and time again. Do we know anything more about them at the end of it all? Not really, but, like, we can pretend that we do.
Yeah, it's because what happens in the first one, so like they go to like person to person, planet to planet, and I don't think we even know their names. It's like we meet them, they get recruited into the group, but we don't know their names, and we don't know why they are being recruited until the end of the movie. Then the bad guy like has everyone in a group, and he's like, you are so and so, and you are a general that went rogue, and you are this and that. And it's like, what, really? Really? What?
to not to defend the movie, but you do kind of like Titus, the general that you're talking about, like he's kind of talked up as like a deserter. The specifics are not really gone into until this movie, and it's maybe the funniest scene in the entire film. And like the sword lady, Doona Nemesis, like she likes children, and that's definitely not forward in the plot in this film to an awkward extent. It's very ham-fisted. It's there in like the most barren sense.
It's there enough that people are going to call us idiots for saying like, oh, the backstory is right there, don't you see it? And it's like, I don't care. Like when like you were saying with General Titus, like I lost my shit laughing when it's like he gets dragged out, and then the evil empire like executes his men with their nuke gun from their galactic dreadnoughts. It's so over the top. Like, can I just say, so I just keep calling them the evil empire. No, they're called the Motherworld. There's a point when you're writing a villain, okay? There's a point where you make them so over the top evil that I just cannot take them seriously anymore.
Well, I think that was arrived at like maybe 7 minutes into the original film, when you have like insurrection within the troop. That's like the ground troops on Veldt, I think it's called, the Flower World. And they were like actively like bullying each other essentially. You're like, yeah, that's not going to stand in like any kind of like GIs or whatnot. But
yeah, it's just like it's so. After a while, I'm just like, they're not a threat because they're so over the top, but they're also not like fun either. Like again, like Star Wars is over the top. Star Wars is silly. But the best part is when Star Wars kind of knows it's silly. It plays things. It's like, okay, we know that the teddy bears on Endor, they're stupid and silly, but come on, guys. Come on, you know why you're here. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
I don't think
I'm
this movie's getting worth getting worked up over. It's just kind of a wasted existence.
I know. It's just like, you're right. I have to inner peace of not having to talk about this after tonight. Okay, I will say there's one scene I really liked in this. So, in the first movie, we meet King Cary Elwes, who's like the head of the Imperium of Man, whatever. He's like, he's so into it. But then I guess it turns out like his daughter, the princess, is just so pure and holy and good that she like convinces him to try to turn
maybe
peace.
4 Jesus figures in this entire film. Even our bad guy is Jesus. Minute 5 of the film, we get a T-pose.
Yes,
we get everything I could ever want from a
and he resurrects. Like, if anything, he's the most Jesus person.
He is Jesus. Jesus is evil, apparently.
Jesus was a space Nazi, apparently. I don't know. I'm not sure how this fits into the catechisms, but okay. But anyways,
it's one of the Apocrypha. I don't know.
The main character, I only remember her name because she has the main name of like Kora, because Legend of Kora, whatever. So Kora, her adopted
Sofia Boutella.
Evil imperial. She never did. Okay, I'm just realizing more and more like how much of this movie did not wrap up. But anyways, so she gets tapped to lead the royal family to be assassinated, and they go into the room, and the music. Well, first of all, it's like exactly Julius Caesar. It's like everybody's wearing togas and everything.
They got togas.
They all got the knives. It's like and again, it's one of those things where it's like, see, it references a historical event. It references Julius Caesar, therefore it is a good movie. I just don't follow that logic there. But what I'm trying to get at, the thing I'm trying to say that I liked. So the music is playing this string quartet of dramatic political assassination music, like, oh yeah, right? And then it cuts to an actual string quartet diegetically playing.
I mean, they're established before it even happened. Like they're in there. They were paid up front. They got they had to negotiate, is this our wedding kind of rate, or are we gonna do graduation, or are there any sort of weird extra add-ons you want? There was a lot of discussion, and they're all blindfolded. They all have potato sacks over their head.
Yeah, this is
for extra drama.
It's I just lost my shit at that moment. And the thing is that is what, if the movie had more of that in it, I would like it so much more. Just the blatantly insane choices like that. As the assassination kind of goes wrong, Kora doesn't exactly play everything. They just play along with it, they're just going along with the energy of the scene. They were really good at
improvising, dramatic pauses. They had the whole thing kind of figured out. Their first violin was just really dialed into the situation. They were oh wait, now there's an assassination. Now there's a conspiracy shift. Okay, we're just gonna kind of dial it in slightly differently. Honestly, props to them. They're the most important people we've met in this entire film.
Yes, they came in, they gave 110%. Good on them. But anyways, you were saying something before I was talking about that.
Oh, I just mean it's kind of something to this end where it's this is what would be fun about this kind of movie, where I don't view this as a legitimate movie. we have an illegitimate filmmaker just continuing to, perpetuate its existence. It's not worth getting like upset over. I was more like just like bored by anything. I wasn't upset because I was like, this is a terrible movie. This is a nightmare. I hate every moment that I'm watching it. It was more just like approaching our viewing. What was it, 2 nights ago? Like, I gleefully watched the Rotten Tomato meter, and it's like 16, 17%, whatever. And I was like expecting this like operatically terrible nightmare of a film that was just like completely incoherent and bombastic and silly and ridiculous. And it's just not any of those things. It's just stupid. It's just slow motion sequences of threshing wheat and, a long build up to like something kind of getting blown up, but it's not really crazy, and it's just kind of stupid. And like, I don't know, like this is a void of an experience, I would say, overall.
I think it's because I was really struggling to kind of put down like points like for us to talk about, but really it just kind of comes down to you just don't care. Mm-hmm. I just don't care about anything that's happening, and the thing that just gets me so much about this in particular, because again, like I just did a whole 40-minute video talking about Man of Steel, how like I think that's one of his better movies, and I think that's like,
okay, agree to disagree.
I'm still not saying it's a good movie. I'm saying it's one of his better movies compared to Sucker Punch, things like that.
Which he wants to fucking recut. The asshole.
But what was I talking about? My mind is just struggling to, because I was like, there's. I think my brain just doesn't want to talk about it.
The film sort of just, where it's done so much legwork in the first installment to kind of like establish all of these heroes that are going to come in and be this sort of retinue or that are going to save the day and protect this village, who are vulnerable from the Motherworld. Now all we have is their like plan to defend themselves, which is basically like farm a lot, make a bunch of sandbags, and then
not sandbags,
wild card that
bags.
shit. Flour bags.
Can I just say, like,
we just watch the sandbags be made for 90 minutes and then we fight.
God, it's like, why would you make a montage out of farming the wheat? Because it doesn't establish anything with the characters. Like, they just are like, they're just doing their thing. I don't know anything about them from this. But also, like, the whole time, I was just thinking to myself, this plan is stupid. This plan is asinine. And this was in the first movie, too. I'm glad you mentioned him, actually. So, this movie is not based on Seven Samurai. It basically just is Zack Snyder's Seven Samurai. But here's the main difference, right? So in Seven Samurai, you have a village just targeted by this gang of bandits, right? And so they go, they find the Seven Samurai, they gather them together, and now there's a lot of bandits. They have the number advantage, but the samurai they're samurai. They're trained. They're smart. They have their techniques, right? So they have a fighting chance. What are these 7 warriors going to do when the evil empire brings in their little battle fleet and just nukes the surface of the planet?
I mean, to be fair, having been a co-participant in watching the movie with you, you really wanted them to nuke everything from the get-go.
Because I wanted the movie to be over. Because here's the thing, okay? So Titus is like this big military general strategist guy, right? And he's like, we will use the grain, we'll keep it close to ourselves, and then they won't nuke us because they need the grain. Nothing about the Motherworld makes me think that they give a single shit if there is a famine for their people. Like, why do they care that much about the grain? Why would you think they care that much about? Because, and then in the climax of the movie, guess what? They don't care about the grain anymore, and they just start trying to nuke them.
Again, is this worth caring about?
No, you're right. I guess what frustrates me is that, again,
what is worth caring about is the hyper emissions emitting little fart mobiles that half the evil empire drives, where they're just like, you got their like little like, there's like a whole posse of like, I don't know, sky to ground cruisers, whatever the hell you want to call it, and then there's like a subset of these like elite fleet that are just emitting coal at like 20 kilos a second, and you're just like, oh my god, this is so inefficient. And this is probably sponsored by West Virginia or something, but it's fine. And then they use that to get back into the sky and trick the people into getting their plane onto the mothership. And it's the only like hint of cleverness that's ever displayed in 2 hours of filmmaking. And I salute that.
It's so funny. It's like there's like a couple. There's like in this whole 2 hours, there's like.
I'm not going to apologize for this movie. I don't know why I'm
ideas.
defending it. I'm just like bored. I'm punching down on it.
I think that's all we can really do at this point, because it's like, because there's not really much we can like, critique with it. Like, it's just.
We could have talked about Sasquatch Sunset, which is 2 hour, 90 minutes of Sasquatch pissing on each other. There were a lot of bodily functions displayed that I didn't necessarily need to see happen. But also, I didn't need to see this movie, so.
At least the first movie, they went to different planets. And there was like
we had
stuff
Spider
there.
Jenna Malone.
Yes, like Spider Lady, and it's like, oh, what's this? And it's like, well, too bad we can't see it right now. Maybe later. Maybe in the fifth movie we get to see the Spider Jenna Malone return.
Well, she's dead, but it's fine. The lady
So
that
is
killed
the
her is also
villain.
dead after having cutting off her arms.
Yeah, it's like,
and then
death
having
doesn't
her
mean anything.
cut off again.
It was just, oh my god.
I hate everything.
But yeah, oh my god. It's, and so like, so in the first movie, like they at least went to like different places and we found different stuff. It was kind of like a mishmash of like things we already kind of knew, but at least it was something. In this movie, we were just stuck on the stupid little village planet that I don't give a shit about. And again, this movie ends on a cliffhanger, and I already know what the twist is going to be. I would bet money.
Oh, that's when I stopped giving a fuck about it. When they refused to end the movie in a legitimate way and were just like, your princess is in a different castle. I'm like, fuck you, I'm done.
No, I was promised this would be a duology. I was promised that it was going to wrap up and that we could put this whole goddamn mess behind us. And now it's like, no. Anyways, you know what? I think we deserve a little bit of a treat here. Do you want to talk about Hundreds of Beavers?
I would talk about Hundreds of Beavers for hundreds of days.
Oh my god. This was such... I was really lucky because I know a lot of folks like were trying to find a theatrical release of this and had one that was playing near me locally. Oh my god. What an absolute blast.
How can you take like the most like tiny like bit, like I'm gonna make like a Charlie Chaplin like gag, like I'm a fur trapper, and I have to like basically go through like a series of like Legend of Zelda like merchant tasks to achieve the girl / kill all these fucking beavers that are trying to like create NASA. How do you make that last for over what, like it's like an hour 40 an hour? It's not short, and it's brilliant.
Oh my god. Let me double check here, because yeah, it's like, it's... Because what it kind of reminds me of is... Let me see. Yeah, 108 minutes. Like, this was... Yeah, that would be... That's almost 2 hours, actually.
Yeah,
that's like an hour 40... Hour 48. God. But what this reminds me of very much is back when, like, you remember like when YouTube was like pre-2010, where like nobody could make money on the platform, nobody really knew what to do on it, so people just kind of did whatever. And some people, like some really talented, really passionate people, made some stuff that was like really wonky, really weird, but really funny. This has that same energy for a feature length, which is phenomenal.
No, it's like definitely like the decision to restrict dialogue to near zero, right, is an interesting challenge, and the way that it kind of like builds, like there's a cleverness to the humor because it's like a slapstick comedy throughout the entire thing, but the way that it sort of like creates these little like visual motifs in a way, almost these gags, and it kind of like keeps adding on to it. Like every time that he whistles, you know exactly what's going to happen, but they find a more preposterous way to make things turn out. Every time that he like chews a tree and like destroys his teeth and regenerates them somehow. Every time that we learn more about like the like, okay, so like raccoons eat rabbits, but also beavers eat shit, but also if you paint castor oil on the shit, then the beavers will want to eat like it doesn't make. And also you can like completely like recreate the map, like just like there's new warp points. You're like, what the fuck video game nightmare is this? Like, it's glorious and it's so much fun, and it's this unfettered like expression of creativity that I adored, and yeah, I fucking love that movie so much.
Oh my god. I just had so much fun with it. And I think what's nice, like, because with those gags, because like they're funny, and then they also start to actually work into the story, like they become actual plot points, like actual like mechanics in the story that then Jean Kayak, the guy who, the main character, he's like, wait a minute, this recurring gag keeps happening to me. I'm going to use that to my own benefit now. And it's this, because as it's going on and it's really funny, it's also genuinely really satisfying to see this guy go from like, this complete, this loser who always messes up, who like keeps getting his ass handed to him by Mother Nature. He slowly is like, oh wait, he recognizes the patterns. He gets a little help from like, a master fur trapper himself. And then he, like seeing him master this trade is so satisfying. Like I have the merchant who has like all this stuff written up as like, oh, if you bring me this many furs, you get this new upgraded item that you can use, which again has that kind of satisfying video game feel to it. And it also makes for a really good narrative device, because like, oh, you follow along, you see how things are gonna go. It's very, very clever, very brilliant how the whole thing comes together and the different elements build on each other.
No, I adore how, like, it's very much like a kissing cousin of, like, Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush, for example. Like, his kind of impoverished, like, tramp figure kind of trying to get ahead in this, like, essential loneliness, and how do you get with the girl? And then he, like, I adore the Buster Keaton, I forget which, I don't think it's the general, but, like, there's a scene where Buster Keaton, like, the barn collapses and he, like, perfectly stands, like, right in the spot not to get crushed by the falling, like, facade. And, like, Hundreds of Beavers not only, like, destroys our beloved trapper Jean Kayak, but, like, does it twice. And it's just this, like, it's so much fun. It's such a perfect, like, thing to experience, like, in a theater. I love the Grand Illusion up in the U District. Like, it's this tiny little theater, and, like, you sweat the entire time because the, like, air conditioning is terrible at the worst of times, and it's freezing when it's the worst to be freezing. But, like, I was, like, weeping with laughter the entire time, and again, like, I just love the movies when they have something to offer to me, and this is one of those times that's just an unfettered, like, expression of creativity and joy that's, like, just so fucking, it's a breath of fresh air.
Oh my god. I think that's exactly one of the things I love about it, because you look at it, has, like, you know, little costumes and everything, the
raccoon hat
and the raccoon hats. And I think one of the things I love about it is that it kind of feels like something that anybody could make. And I don't say that in a dismissive, oh, I could have made this thing, it's not special. I say that in a way of, I feel like if any of us, like, were passionate enough and, like, we saved up a little bit of money, we could make something on the scale of this. And that's really inspirational. It's like, it's the kind of movie I watch and I say, wow, I want to go make something myself now.
No, it's really, like, I really liked the direct Mike Cheslick and Ryland Brixton called too. It's like they have this whole creative partnership or whatnot. Like, I saw the Lake Michigan Monster before this, which is kind of their prior feature, which is more of, like, a send-up of, like, B movies. Like, it's kind of very, like, sort of 1960s, like, camp, but there's just as much, like, intricacy and dedication to that. And it's just like, okay, like, you don't need all the money in the world, you don't need all the time in the world, you just need, like, skill and dedication and interest, and a budget is always helpful. But, like, it's great to see, like, people, like, actually giving a fuck about what they're making and putting it out there and sharing it and being intrepid about it.
Yeah. And actually, I got to do a specific shout out for Ryland Brixton and Colt Hughes, who plays Jean Kayak, because to do this kind of, even when you have, like, you know, your editing and compositing software to kind of do stuff, to pull off the physical comedy that this movie requires, that's Christ. Hard. That is hard. Like, to the way that he emotes, not just with his face, but with his body, the way that he has to, like, kind of, you know, deal with all this stuff. Like, that is very hard. And he pulled it off so well.
No, it's, I mean, it's, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
It's just, like, it's all of this kind of stuff is happening. Like, independent film is so important, and it's like movies like Hundreds of Beavers, movies like these that are, like, vital to my lifeblood, and to, like, that's why I can get away with, like, not caring about Zack Snyder's latest bowel movement. Is like, this kind of stuff is still out there, and these vibrant filmmakers are doing their thing, and like that's what I care about. And every time, I don't know, Sif rolls around or whatever, like we got some exciting new projects happening, and Hollywood can just continue driving itself into the ground, and we can be fine with that.
Honestly, I do think that we are starting to see like a little bit of a shift away from these like bloated, massive monstrosities and towards like smaller movies. Like I feel like Hundreds of Beavers still hasn't quite cracked the mainstream, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it.
No way will it ever crack the mainstream.
But I think that over time, because in my life, like in real life, like at work or whatever, I've shown this trailer to like 5 different people, and every single one of them, like all kind of like, you know, people with different dispositions, they all saw the trailer and thought, I really want to see this now. Like I've seen people like outside of like film, Reddit, things like that, people outside of there are talking about the new Zendaya movie with the tennis thing. Challengers, yeah. It's like, so maybe things are going to be shifting away, you know, and
I mean, I'm always here for a horny Guadagnino film, so.
Oh my god. Yeah, Hundreds of Beavers, it's I know everybody's been, you know, talking about, but it's so good. It's so goddamn good.
Hundreds of Beavers is like
the best part.
Unironically a masterpiece. So, yeah.
And best part is that you can rent it right now on Amazon Prime. Actually, no, not Amazon, just Amazon. I don't know all these weird Amazon things. Anyway, you can rent it right now, as a matter of fact, and you should do that because it's awesome.
I'm just sad that their trucker hat is sold out. I don't wear hats, but like I might in that case.
You'll wear this hat. Actually, I want to wear that hat too. Where can I get this hat? I want one. Yeah. Any other thoughts about Hundreds of Beavers?
I mean, the most fun I've had in a cinema lately.
I think, yeah. This is just like, it's a balm to the soul to talk about this movie that you can just tell, like, something like this doesn't get made if a lot of people don't care a lot about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with that, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation tonight.
Cheers.
And yeah, if you want to catch us, I'm Daniel Goldhorn on YouTube.
And I'm Reynard, /cinema on Tumblr.
And we'll see you all next time. Take care.
Bye.